Do you feel tough in these kinds of situations with these two black eyes?
I mean, that's what people keep telling me.
1 point, 1 possession, 1 whistle away from a collapse that would have haunted Indiana for the rest of the season. That's the moment the Fever walked into in Los Angeles.
I feel like that's just really helped us down the line, because no matter who comes in, no matter who steps up, we're all just really happy for each other.
Busted out of the sky, and we're going to have a foul here. No, a timeout taken by Indiana.
And if you blinked at 1.9 seconds, you almost missed the part where it felt like the game was getting pulled out of their hands. This wasn't pretty. This wasn't clean. This was grit, bruises, and a locker room that has learned to breathe through chaos.
Fever down! Down, down, down! Hell yeah!
The craziest part? Caitlin Clark wasn't even on the floor. And still, it felt like she was everywhere. Her fingerprints were all over the edge, the urgency, the message. Stay ready, stay angry, but stay focused, win anyway. The backdrop was bad enough to start. The Fever came in shorthanded, no Clark on the court, Sophie Cunningham out. Guard depth sliced thin, and yet the assignment was brutal. A Sparks team that had owned them all year, building confidence every time these two saw each other.
These are women who care about winning, who care about one another, who sacrifice every single day.
Indiana had dropped the last 3 to LA. The standings kept it tense. The whispers were loud. Are the Fever slowing down? Are the bodies piling up? Is this where the wheels come off? That's the noise you hear when you're in 6th, when the gap behind you is small and the schedule is cruel.
Every time she sees me, she smiles and then she says, "I'm so sorry." I'm like, you don't need to be sorry. This is what it is.
That's the noise great teams have to learn to mute. Indiana didn't mute it with flair. They strangled it with stops, second efforts, and veteran nerve. From the opening tip, you could feel that thin ice energy, the kind where every loose ball feels like a season swinging. The Fever didn't blink. They crashed the glass, they wrestled for position, they ate up the paint. On a night where style points were worthless, Indiana chose something better: stubbornness. Possession by possession, they leaned into what wins when everything else breaks. Lexi Hull set the emotional temperature the second she checked in. 2 black eyes. No dramatics, no pity. Just a chin up and a basketball stance that said, "This is going to hurt, and I'm here for it." You could see teammates look at her and stand a little taller. She fought through screens like they insulted her family. She jabbed at passing lanes. When the ball dropped to the floor, Lexi dove like it owed her something. Fans talk about culture like it's a slogan. This was culture you could circle with a Sharpie. Play hurt, play smart, play for the woman next to you. And then Odyssey Sims showed up with the calm of someone who's seen everything and still wants more. Nights like this are how veterans carve their names into a season. Not with a 35-foot heat check, but with decisions, with pace control, with the perfectly timed burst that slips through 2 defenders and kisses the glass before anyone knows what happened. Sims didn't come in to steal the spotlight. She came in to solve a problem. When Kelsey Mitchell couldn't find rhythm early, most teams would wobble. Sims stabilized the floor like she was tightening bolts with every possession. A cutter here, a mid-range there, a downhill lefty when the defense dared her to be brave, and then the kind of shot players dream about and coaches hope for, the go-ahead floater with seconds left, the one that doesn't just take a lead, it takes a building's breath. That was an adult win. That was a resume line. But the box score wasn't just veteran poise, it was a franchise pillar strapping on a cape. Aliyah Boston didn't tap into good. She instrumented the game, 20-plus points powering the interior, double-digit boards to close possessions. A career high in steals like she was swiping pages out of LA's playbook. You don't see that combination on accident. You see it when a player understands that her gravity can warp a fourth quarter. Boston dictated spacing like a point center, slid into help like a safety, and then when it truly counted, read the final action and cut the cord. She didn't wait for a whistle to save her. She ended it with her hands. Rip. Done. Timeout Indiana. That's what stars do when the clock decides it wants to be dramatic. Now let's talk about the part everyone's still heated about, because pretending it didn't happen would be dishonest. Those final 2 seconds were messy, confusing resets, quick whistles, and a feeling in the arena that the game didn't want to end. If you're a Fever fan, you felt it in your stomach. Why are we still playing this? Why are there extra chances? Why does this feel like the door won't stay closed? When Kelsey went to the line with fractions left and the horn was ready to sing, the script should have been simple. Instead, it's stretched. That's where resentment grows. That's where trust gets tested. And yes, fans let the officials have it. 1.9 seconds and the ref tried to give the game to the Sparks. Unbelievable. Stinkin' ref. That's not a mild take. That's a lid blown off. Another fan zeroed in on a specific official jersey number, name and all, accusing him of restarting a game after it was over, only to conjure a foul and hand LA the ball. That's not griping over a block charge. That's accusing the room of tilting. This is where we keep it fair. Players compete, officials manage, and humans can make mistakes. But this much is true. When late whistles, odd resets, and extra looks pile up against a road team, the optics are ugly. And in a league that's fighting for every ounce of credibility and eyeballs, optics matter. From Caitlin Clark's vantage point, you could see every strand of that tension. She's not playing, but she's not passive. This is her group, her culture, her investment. On the bench, she rides every possession like she's on the floor. And when that horn should have meant peace, even she couldn't hide how wrong it felt. The face said it, the body language said it, the glare at the scores table said it. Enough. The cameras caught the fire, and for once, nobody pretended it wasn't there. Clark's brand isn't fake composure, it's competitive honesty. If it looks off, she'll show you it looks off. That's leadership you can't teach. Protect the standard even when you win. Here's the part some people won't like, but it needs to be said. You can call it bias. You can call it incompetence under pressure. You can call it chaos. But when endgame arbitration starts feeling like a choose-your-own ending, fans are going to call it something worse, rigged. That word is gasoline. That word goes viral. And that word is why stars, coaches, and the league office have to be better than it is what it is. The Fever didn't get saved by fairness. They muscled through weirdness. They won through it, not because of it. That's a compliment to Indiana, and a challenge to everyone with a whistle. And yet, despite all that heat, the most powerful rebuttal wasn't a press conference jab. It was basketball. Boston read the last pass like she'd seen the film already. Sims played the last minute like it moved in slow motion for her. Lexi did the dirty brave work no stat line measures right. Natasha Howard turned the paint into a workshop. Aerial Powers injected pace and punch exactly when time felt heavy. Even on a night when Mitchell had to grind to see the ball go through, she kept stretching the defense, kept drawing eyes, kept moving the chessboard so that someone else could cut behind it. That's what teams do when they're past the phase of please clap for us. They build a win like a structure. Everyone holds their beam. Caitlin's presence matters in ways people don't always notice. When your best-known player isn't suiting up, every negative moment can feel bigger. According to the outside world, a team becomes dependent on a headline. Indiana didn't bite. They played through contact, through calls, through the noise. They didn't try to be someone new. They doubled down on who they are. Clark's voice has hammered that all year. Shoot with confidence, make the extra read, be coachable, be accountable, be loud about it. It's why a veteran like Sims can walk in and feel trusted enough to take the last shot. It's why a big like Boston can demand touches, still share the ball, and never look like she's forcing a script. It's why a role player like Lexi can play with two black eyes and know that the locker room sees that as leadership, not just toughness for the cameras. Let's rewind to the stakes for a second, because that's what heightens everything. This wasn't a Wednesday in January with 50 games left. This was a swing game with playoff implications and a head-to-head tiebreaker tangled in it. LA was lurking, the West is cruel, and the Fever couldn't afford to let the table tilt. Dropping another one to the Sparks wouldn't just bruise confidence, it would rewrite seeding math. That context is why the finish felt like a courtroom. Every breath was evidence. Every sound was contested. When the result finally locked, the sense of release didn't look like joy, it looked like vindication. None of this erases what the numbers said about Boston. You don't accidentally stack scoring, rebounding, and a career-high theft spree in the same night. That's not a hot hand, that's control. The Sparks kept adjusting coverage. She kept finding the answer. Double, step through, front, seal deep, late stunt, skip pass to the nail and make them rotate. On defense, she looked like a free safety walking into a quarterback's eyes. That last steal wasn't luck. That was diagnosis. That's superstar work in the most grown-up sense of the word. A player who doesn't need the hype machine to find the moment. She becomes it. Meanwhile, the Sims chapter of this game deserves its own shelf. There's a reason you hear veterans say the same line over and over. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. It sounds like an Instagram caption until you see it break a game. The calm 3 when the defense dares you, the hard 2 when the defense sits on your right, the rip and run when a lazy outlet floats. None of those are hero ball. They are shots that punish indecision. That's how closers think. The floor gets small at the end of games. The courage has to get bigger. Okay, let's go back to the officiating storm, because this is the part that will live in post-game threads for a week. Fans pointed directly at a referee by number and name. They dragged prior calls, they brought up old technicals, they stitched together a story they believed. There's history here, there's bias here, there's something not right here. Is that fair? Is it heat of the moment anger? Maybe it's both. What's undeniable is the fuel. Late whistles, odd timing, and a sequence that felt like it was bending toward LA. Even neutral watchers were asking the same question. Why are we still lining up? If you want to protect the product, you have to protect the last 2 minutes like a fortress. That's where memories are made. That's where conspiracy theories are born. If you don't lock every door, Clark's own arc with officials is part of this undercurrent. She has never been the head down and smile type. From college to the pros, she has worn her edge openly. That invites attention, some good, some not. You can love it or hate it, but it's authentic. And authenticity is why casual fans become diehards. It's also why a night like this puts her in a spotlight even when she's in street clothes. The camera finds her because she says the quiet part out loud with her face. When something smells wrong, she doesn't do the media-trained grin. She does what competitors do. She burns, then she channels it. If you're wondering whether this was just a fever dream, pun intended, or a pattern, you're not alone. The league has had other officiating dust-ups this season. Weird endgame calls, questionable technicals, momentum-killing reviews that leave everyone colder than before. Most of it is human. Some of it is systemic. All of it is fixable. That's the conversation that this game forces. The W doesn't need perfect refs. Nobody has them. It needs trustworthy endings. It needs the team that out-toughed the night to feel like the night didn't try to steal the trophy on the way out. Pull the camera back though, and the Fever's bigger story is louder than any whistle. Next woman up isn't a slogan. It's the operating system. Lose a guard, change the rhythm, lose your most famous shooter, hammer the paint, add a veteran closer, and make defense your brand. That's coaching, yes, but it's also player-led. Boston's calm tells everyone where to stand emotionally. Sim's professionalism tells everyone how to use their minutes. Lexi's bruises tell everyone what buy-in really looks like. Ariel's pace tells everyone when to punch. Mitchell's gravity tells everyone how space is created even on a tough shooting night. Those are 5 different sermons, all preaching the same gospel. Our standard travels. What does this win actually do? It doesn't put a banner up, it doesn't guarantee anything, but it does put a fence around the conversation. You can't say Indiana collapses under pressure after watching them hold an opponent at arm's length while the room tried to spin. You can't say they're a one-star show when the star was in a sweatshirt and the team still picked locks in crunch time. You certainly can't say they lack leadership when the voices up and down the roster harmonized in the exact moment. Doubt usually sings the loudest. And yes, the elephant in the space, Caitlyn's return. When? How much? What does it change? The safer answer is everything and nothing. Everything. Because her shooting gravity, passing vision, and pace setting turn half chances into layups and corner threes. Nothing. Because the identity cannot be outsourced to any single player. Not after games like this. When she steps back in, she's not rescuing a team. She's rejoining a machine that learned to win ugly on cue. That's terrifying for opponents. It means Clark's strengths don't have to cover for weaknesses. They can supercharge strengths that already hold up under stress. If you want a snapshot of how this all ties together, freeze the last minute in your mind. Boston reads, jumps, and ends a possession with authority. Sims walks the ball to her spot and chooses the shot that fits the moment, not the highlight reel. Lexi sprints to rebound position because she's not waiting to see if it goes in, she's planning for if it doesn't. Mitchell spaces to the exact depth that drags help just enough. Powers crashes with controlled chaos. 5 decisions, 1 heartbeat. That's film session candy. That's how coaches sleep well on planes. That's how playoff teams are built. So where do we go with the officiating conversation? Here, accountability doesn't have to be a witch hunt. Post-game 2-minute reports, tighter replay guidelines, and clearer communication go a long way. Make the final minute transparent. Treat those possessions like the sport's crown jewels, because they are. If the league wants fewer viral clips of stars fuming at the table, give the table fewer opportunities to be mysterious. Let the basketball breathe at the end. Let the players decide it. And what about LA? Respect where it's due. They fought, they clawed, they've got athletes all over the floor, and a tradition that demands they swing until the wall tells them to stop. That's part of why this win matters more. Indiana didn't beat a ghost. They beat a rival with history, pride, and urgency. That's the steal you need when the calendar flips and nobody cares about your almosts. Back to Caitlyn for the final word, because the video is through her eyes whether she's on the court or not. Her reaction, frustration, advocacy, fire wasn't about drama. It was about defending a standard. You don't have to love every glare or every bark to appreciate the purpose, protect the room. If she's going to be the face of a generation, these are the nights that harden the mold. Not the 35-footers, not the highlights that write themselves. These nights where the only way out is through, and the job is to make sure the story ends with your team's name spelled correctly on the scoreboard. And for anyone still stuck on those last 1.9 seconds, here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the game tries to get taken from you. The clock hesitates, the whistle wobbles, the ground feels slanted. That's when teams either point at the angle and complain, or they stomp hard enough to flatten it. Indiana stomped. They beat the opponent. They beat the moment. They beat the mess. If you were in that huddle, you felt it. If you were on that bench, you lived it. If you were in street clothes with a superstar's weight on your shoulders, you burned for it. The Fever didn't just survive LA, They learned how to end a game when the ending doesn't want to arrive. That lesson is ugly and priceless. It will travel, and when Caitlin Clark's jersey is back on and the match is lit again, she won't be sparking a timid room. She'll be pouring gasoline on a fire that's already built its own oxygen. That's why this win is bigger than a line in the standings. It changes temperature, it changes tone. It tells the league you might frustrate them, you might bruise them, you might even make the last 2 seconds feel twice as long, but you won't move them. If you're a Fever fan, let's say it with the same confidence they played with. Refs can't stop us. Not tonight, not when the culture is this loud, the star is this steady, and the vets are this ready. Drop your take below. Was it human error, or did this one smell off to you too? Either way, the tape says what the final score already did. Indiana didn't get given a thing. They took it. And if this is what they look like without Caitlin Clark on the floor, consider this a polite warning for whoever gets them next when she returns. Your margin just got smaller, because in the end, the buzzer did sound, the locker room did explode, and the best thing you can say about a team that had every reason to fold is also the simplest: they didn't. They built a finish out of toughness, trust, and a refusal to let the narrative write itself. That's the kind of win you pack for the postseason. That's the kind of memory you pull out when the game wants to wobble again. And when someone tries to bring up those 1.9 seconds like an asterisk, just smile and tell them what Aliyah Boston already answered with her hands. We ended it, now breathe. Then rewind, then get ready. The season just got shorter, the stakes just got bigger, and the Fever just proved they're built for the longest 2 seconds in basketball. Let's push deeper, because the last 90 seconds told you everything about who the Fever are when the floor gets small and the lights get heavy. Down the stretch, watch how every action had an answer. LA tried to drag Boston away from the rim with a high screen. She hedged just enough to bother the ball, then snapped back into the lane like a rubber band to erase a pocket pass. When the Sparks switched and tried to front her on the other end, the guards didn't panic. They lifted, inverted the floor, and fed her on the second window. That's not luck. That's trust layered over repetition. And when the ball found Sims late, when everyone in the building knew the next touch could tilt everything, you could almost hear the air slow down. One hard dribble to settle the feet, one pause to make the help lean, then a floater with the same touch you use to drop a set of keys into a quiet room. It's the kind of shot that doesn't draw a smile. It draws a nod. What you didn't see in the highlight is the subtle stuff that wins margins. Lexi's inside foot on the blockout, the one that kept her low and balanced so a longer wing couldn't swim over her back. Mitchell's willingness to run all the way through the corner, even on a night she had to fight the iron, just to drag the weak side defender one step farther than comfortable. Aerial powers bending the defense with a hard cut she wasn't going to get the ball on, opening a seam behind her for a teammate she might never get credit for. That's why the last possession looked like chaos to outsiders, and like choreography to the 5 wearing red. When it counts, your habits show. The Fever's habits look like work. This story deserves its own few breaths because this is what resilience looks like in a human. One year you're on a hardship, another year you're bouncing cities, another year you're the veteran in a room full of young names trying to prove your voice still fits the song. Nights like this write a different verse. People think closer lives in the last shot alone. It doesn't. It lives in the way you sprint back after a miss, so no one else has to feel the weight. It lives in the way you pull a teammate aside and whisper the coverage read she's about to see. It lives in the way you step to the line without letting the noise rent space in your head. Odyssey made this finish feel like a chapter she'd read before. She wasn't chasing a moment. She was handling a task. And then there's the Boston Clark equation that everyone's about to remember the minute 22 slips back into a jersey. The 2-woman game they run isn't cute. It's punishing. When Clark comes off a high drag and a backpedaling big has to choose between her pull-up and the pocket bounce, the defense starts speaking 2 languages at once. Add in Boston's touch at the free throw line, short roll, pivot, face, find the corner, and you're talking about geometry more than basketball. That's what makes this win scary for the rest of the league. Indiana didn't just prove they can hold the rope without Clark, they sharpened the tools she uses best when she's back. Spacing is cleaner, timing is tighter, the trust reads louder. If you thought the floor looked wide against LA, wait until Clark is the one peeling the weak side open with her eyes. Let's circle back to Lexi, because toughness doesn't need to be loud to change a room. 2 black eyes are a symbol, sure, but it's the behavior around them that matters. No bailouts, no flinching, no asking the refs to see it your way. Just gathering herself, getting lower, and playing the game like pain is a background noise not worth turning up. The traditionalists will tell you that's the sport they fell in love with. No shortcuts, no theatrics, just responsibility to the possession. You saw that on defense when she chased a shooter over the top instead of gambling under. You saw it when she sprinted to tag the roller and still recovered to a wing without waving for help. These are the snaps of effort that never trend but always travel. Teams remember them, opponents feel them. About those whistles again because we owe it to the game to say this clean. Respecting officials and demanding clarity are not opposites. Players adjust to standards when those standards are steady. When they wobble in the final minute, it's not emotion to be upset, it's logic. The best fix isn't outrage, it's structure. Set replay boundaries that prevent phantom resets. Publish a tight 2-minute review that explains in plain language why a clock moved or didn't. Give coaches confidence that the last possession won't turn into a lesson in algebra. Most important, treat the final minute like a sacred trust. Fans can handle human error. What they can't handle is uncertainty that feels avoidable. The Fever, to their credit, acted like a team that would rather win than be right. It's an old-school principle: control what you can control, outlast what you can't, and never let a whistle write your last line. That doesn't mean you swallow the frustration. It means you bank it for the next stop. Watch Boston after one of those late sequence interruptions. No theatrics, a quick check with the bench for coverage, a tap to her chest to claim the switch if needed, and eyes that read the inbound like a quarterback scanning his first 2 options. That's how you keep your fingerprints on an ending that's trying to slip away. You secure it with attention, not with arguments. It's worth crediting the baseline of this win: the glass. When a team owns the boards on the road, it shuts the window where weird stuff sneaks in. Extra shots are silencers. Defensive rebounds are aspirin for a headache crowd. You saw that when AB crashed late, when Boston vacuumed the ones near her, when guards pinched down to get a body and refused to leak until the ball was safe. That's the kind of detail that good teams grow into and great teams rely on. In the postseason, when whistles get tight and halves get short, the team that walks the ball off the rim with 2 hands usually walks into the locker room with the noise in their favor. A word on Kelsey Mitchell, because box scores sometimes tell a loud truth and miss a quiet one. Every defense scripts her first. Top lock, blitz. Show early help 2 strides above the break. The goal is to make her feel crowded before she even catches it. On a grindy night, the temptation is to force your way into rhythm. Kelsey did something smarter. She kept stretching coverage even without the reward. She emptied the corner to open middle drives. She relocated with pace after a pass to force a retag. She drew eyes so that other hands could eat. That's expensive work. The return doesn't always show up on your line, but it shows up on the scoreboard. Coaches love that. Teammates notice. If you're wondering how this kind of win is, the answer is beautifully. Schedules get cold, strengths get scouted, and cute stuff melts. What lasts is a team's comfort in the mud. Can you win when the rims feel tight? Can you win when the bench is thin? Can you win when the room's tilted and the fans are whistling before the ref does? Indiana just checked those boxes in permanent marker. That becomes part of your identity. It becomes a story you tell yourselves when the next test shows up 3 time zones away and your legs aren't listening. We've done this before, and we did it when it was louder. Caitlin's comeback will be judged by highlights. That's just how stardom works. But the basketball people will judge it by how seamlessly she slides into a machine that already hums. The screen angles will matter. The pace reads will matter. The way she hits Boston on the pocket versus the pop will matter. And because this team learned to share oxygen without her, the best version of Clark doesn't have to manufacture air. She can exhale, pick her spots, and let the gravity do the lifting while her decisions do the carving. That's how you turn returns into surges, not just headlines. There's an old truth in this game that feels especially right tonight. Pressure doesn't build character, it reveals it. The Fever didn't discover something new in LA. They revealed what they had practiced in 1,000 quiet reps: veteran steadiness, star control, blue-collar edges, bench energy that isn't fake, a standard that doesn't wobble with the whistle. Add the chip that an officiating storm leaves on your shoulder, and you've got a personality that opponents would rather not see in a best-of series. Ugly travels, defense travels, rebounding travels, belief travels. That's a suitcase worth packing. And because this is told through Caitlin's eyes, let's be clear about what that leadership looks like when the cameras aren't searching for a flare-up. It's her at practice chirping one more, so a shooter takes a clean extra pass. It's her pointing to a spot on the floor, not for herself but for a big to seal where the help can't dig. It's her catching a teammate after a turnover and refusing to let the mistake define the next trip. That energy doesn't disappear in street clothes. It buzzes. It fills the cracks when bodies are missing. It gives permission for a veteran like Sims to take the wheel for a night because the destination doesn't change. As for the league, the assignment is simple and serious. Protect the ends of games. The product deserves that. The players deserve that. And the fans who are discovering this league in real time deserve that most. Tighten the process, clarify the language, and let the last minute be sacred ground where the ball, not confusion, decides the outcome. If the W does that, nights like this become rally points for new fans instead of fuel for conspiracy threads. The basketball is good enough. The stars are bright enough. Don't let the final 2 seconds be a mystery novel when they should be a conclusion. When the charter wheels lift and the city lights shrink, teams do the same thing we all do after chaos. They replay. The good, the bad, the almost. The Fever's replay reel after this one is a masterclass in how a group grows fangs. You see Lexi's eyes and understand what playthrough means. You see Sim's hands and remember what a trusted decision feels like. You see Boston's read and know what a franchise anchor looks like. You see the bench rise in unison and feel what a culture sounds like. And yes, you see the whistle dance and feel what it means to win anyway. So take the win, pack the lessons, and keep the promise. The promise is this: the next time a game tries to slip through the cracks, Indiana won't be reaching, they'll be gripping. With Caitlin Clark returning, Aliyah Boston dictating, Odyssey Sims steadying, Lexi Hull hardening edges, and a locker room that now knows it can build a finish in a storm, the Fever aren't auditioning for belief. They own it. If the refs get it right, they'll win because they're good. If the refs get it weird, they'll win because they're stubborn. Either way, the message echoes the one the title already stamped. Refs can't stop us. Not tonight. Not when the team plays this grown. Not when the standard is this loud. And if you're watching this as a neutral, wondering whether this is a one-off or a signpost, here's your answer. Basketball seasons don't hinge on perfect nights, they hinge on imperfect ones, survived with conviction. Indiana just survived one of the messiest. That tends to age very, very well.